So talking about Nikola Jokic, the big man on the Nuggets team, let's quickly transition to the other big man on the Lakers team, Anthony Davis, and let's talk about the wonderful, exciting. I mean, we were predicting this, we were hoping for this, we were crying for this matchup because it is basically Rudranj versus Angad and Sridhar. It's Los Angeles Lakers versus Golden State Warriors. It's LeBron James versus Steph
Curry.
Curry. It is Anthony Davis versus Draymond Green. I mean,
It's
it is going
GOAT
to be a
versus
crazy.
LeGoat.
I mean, it's obviously goat versus someone who tries to be a goat, but yeah. Uh, let's quickly dive into the matchup. Let's talk about what are the possibilities for the two teams. What do you think, guys? How is this matchup going to be?
Oh, it's obviously going to be a fun matchup, especially for us because we're on either sides, and like we always love rooting for our guys. And this is the cherry on top. I mean, obviously we would have made podcasts, we would have discussed things, we would have watched those playoffs anyways. But like this is the best case scenario. We both of our teams going ahead in the Western Conference semifinals. LeBron versus Curry has been obviously over the years iconic, and it's fun to get to see that again. I mean, I remember a point in time where they made like a video of LeBron versus Curry going on over and over and over again into the years like 2026 or something. It was always Warriors versus Cavs, but we saw how quickly that just went away with LeBron moving to Lakers and then Durant moving away. So it's fun to have that matchup again, but overall, I think Lakers versus Warriors has never happened in post game, like in really meaningful context in the recent past. Other than that, one play in game where the Lakers beat the Warriors, but I think it'll be good fun. Considering the matchups, I think AD versus Kevon will be a big thing. Kevon obviously having an amazing year on rebounds and especially on offensive rebounds. I think that'll be a matchup to see. LeBron versus Curry will also be fun. I mean, obviously it won't be a one-on-one matchup, but um, they're the leaders and they take their teams home. So I think that'll be fun to watch. I think AD will be tough for Golden State to manage, depending on what kind of AD we get from game to game. Um, Other than that, Dennis Schroeder has always given this Warriors team problems because he's super fast. So he'll be a player to watch. I think we'd be wanting more D'Angelo Russell minutes since he's more of a liability on defense as well. So for the Warriors, it'll be a favorable matchup if Russell plays more than Schroeder does, because Schroeder can hold his own sometimes in defense, and he's better on offense against us. So those are my key matchup takeaways. I think obviously Steph will be vital, but I think the everybody else needs to show up in this series for them to win.
I think definitely for sure the matchups are going to be really interesting. I mean, in Kevon, Olajuwon, you already have a player who does all the dirty work, right, for that team. Versus a man who doesn't want to always do the dirty work. I mean, this season we've seen him again bring up that defensive player of the year conversations in the limited minutes he's played. And in the playoffs, for definitely he's been the best defensive player on court for the Lakers and throughout. So, I mean, if you're getting that kind of an Anthony Davis, I think there is no chance. Obviously, like Rodran said, LeBron really popularized that hunting for Steph matchups during that, especially the 2016 finals. But at the same point, Warriors are going to target D'Angelo Russell. They're going to target Austin Reeves. They're going to have Curry go. They are going to have them guard Curry for sure on multiple possessions, and I think that's going to be a problem. And we kind of discussed this in a previous podcast too. That who would you rather play? Being the Lakers, would you rather play the Kings or would you rather play the Warriors? And the Warriors are such a dynamic team with best shooters in the league that they can just go hot from three for a couple of minutes and it's already a 10 point, 12 point game. And you can't look back from the Warriors. So I think it's going to be a beautiful matchup. I think the last time they played in the regular season, the Lakers did get the better of them when they were in the role with LeBron injured, and they obviously Warriors obviously having to take care without Andrew Wiggins at the same point, and them having that one very poor stretch when they lost to the Lakers and they lost to the Rockets away from home. But at the same point in time, I think it's going to be vital about how who really picks up their team. I think Steph has been brilliant in the last. I mean, Game 7 was something else, but Steph really picks up his shooters. And you cannot have Klay Thompson 4 for 19 night against the Lakers, I feel, because the Lakers are going to kill them in the paint. That do not have a lot of interior defenders. I think if AD is on his work, I think if Rui or you just need one of Rui or AR, Ocean Reeves or D'Angelo Russell to pop off, and that's all there is with it. And obviously, it's going to be a big thing on LeBron because he's going to be guarded by Andrew Wiggins, by Draymond Green, multiple possessions, and those are very smart players who going to, who are not going to let him get to that rim as easily as an inexperienced Memphis team. So there are so many things to worry about this matchup. I mean, we as Warriors and Lakers fans are going to have our heart in our mouths the entire time. But so, what do you think about this?
I mean, it is pretty clear that this matchup would be a great surprise. I mean, we could see a lot of players stepping up. I think so. Andrew Wiggins at this point of time will not have a lot of defense. I mean, we'll have to see who defends upon and Andrew Wiggins from the start. I mean, I am sure that LeBron will take up that matchup in the start. But how does LeBron fare against in the fourth quarter, where LeBron looked a lot wear down in the previous games? We'll have to see, because Andrew Wiggins could be very, very, very dangerous in that point of time. We'll also have to see how probably Lakers or Warriors react to the turnovers that they've been given, because Lakers are absolutely relentless going down the bucket, going towards the bucket. I mean, having AD and LeBron James, the best bucket finishers, and if Golden State Warriors give a lot of buckets or give a lot of turnovers, I don't think so they'll be able to survive for long, because Lakers will capitalize on them fast. I mean, it's really hard. It will be really challenging for the Lakers team to also see how, because the perimeter defense for the Lakers has not been the best in the previous game. They did not get a lot of perimeter shooters from the Memphis Grizzlies team. Right, we'll have to see how they guard Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, who could absolutely pop off, and who knows that Jordan Poole could have that the pool party in some of the game, because he's very inconsistent. You never know when he pops off. Right, we'll also have to see what kind of a lineup does the Warriors come up with. Are they playing with a three? What do you guys think? Would they play with a 3 guard lineup, or would they bring in Draymond Green in the start and then probably put Jordan Poole on the bench?
I think they have to play with the 3 guard lineup because of the Lakers defense, the way that it's set up. If they play Draymond and Looney or in the same lineup, I think they'll have both LeBron and AD sitting in the paint, which is what you do not want. They'll be roaming free, doing nothing, just waiting in the paint for the guards to come in. So I think they have to play with the 3 guard lineup, and they have to stretch the floor, improve the spacing like they did in the previous series. Regarding the turnovers, I think that's always been an issue, like we discussed previously. Turnovers have to be contained, especially against, like you mentioned, a very good transition team. Regardless, you'd never really want to give transition looks to any team, because you don't give your defense a chance to set up, which is absolutely crucial either way. Because checking about the stats, the offensive numbers, the defensive numbers, it's almost identical for these two teams. But I think where the advantage lies for Golden State is obviously in the 3-point shooting. Lakers are more set up to be a defensive team that stops the 2-pointers, or they protect the paint more so, with AD at the center of that defense. But like you said, I think Andrew Wiggins will be the key. He'll have to attack that LeBron matchup, and he'll have to make LeBron work on defense so that they can contain him better on offense, because he's tired. I think they have to exploit that. And Wiggins only having 7 games under his belt, I think that might be tough. But I think he has to be ultra aggressive on that matchup, because we know that he can play defense on the best of them. Even from game 1, I felt like his defensive presence was there. But like I mentioned before, he wasn't looking aggressive or decisive on the offensive end, which he needs to be in this series for the Warriors to win, I think.
Yeah, right before we jump into the prediction, I just want to point that out, right? That even I thought that probably the Warriors are going to go with Draymond, Wiggins, and Kevon Looney in the starting lineup. But what Raj pointed out really made sense, right? Because you cannot have a clock paint against the Lakers team, especially, I mean, Draymond, even being the best of the best defenders and a Hall of Famer first ballot, no doubt, right? He's not going up against a really in form Anthony Davis who can back him down and really get a lot of points over him, and especially because Draymond Green loves to get into foul trouble really early on. I mean, so does Anthony Davis, but at the same point in time, I think it's going to be two players on the Warriors that are going to be key, right? It's going to be Steph because I'm pretty sure Lakers have no one who can guard him. I mean, no one in the league can guard him, but Lakers really don't have someone who can guard him. I mean, Austin Reeves can run around and face guard him, but that just doesn't matter
Do you
at all.
think they put like Jared Vanderbilt on him?
I
Because that
think
makes
that
sense,
is
I
the
guess.
best matchup for him. I for sure think that's the best
But then
matchup.
he brings no offense. I think that'll be the same case like the Kings bringing in
Davion Mitchell.
Mitchell, Davion Mitchell for defense, but then you don't have enough offense with him on the floor. So it'll be a defensive offensive subs.
For sure, because I think Jared Vanderbilt showed in that Memphis series, right, that he can knock down that corner three, not that consistently, but he can knock it down for sure. But I think that's going to be something that the Warriors are going to keep him open for as many shots, and they're going to tell him to shoot them out of the game. And if he does, then obviously you live with that. But Jared Vanderbilt is not making 5 for 10 from three, too, right? So I think that's going to be a really nice matchup to see because even AD, I mean, no big man can switch on to Curry, and it's not a mismatch at the same point in time. And I think it's all about Wiggins, right? Wiggins, if he Wiggins, even Game 7, I mean, he was taking post fades and post hooks too. And I was like, there needs to be aggressiveness on his part because as good as Keegan Murray is inside, he's just a rookie. I mean, this is a prime on Andrew Wiggins. This was last year Andrew Wiggins who was shooting almost 45% from three. He was attacking. He, had that infamous dunk on Luka Doncic. Then he had a dunk on Jason Tatum. I mean,
Poster.
that was a good posture too, right? And I mean, they obviously have that kind of a connection with LeBron when LeBron traded him as the first pick to get Kevin Love. I mean, there's a lot of animosity between these two teams for sure. In the
Are you
players, not the
predicting an
teams, but
Andrew Wiggins revenge season?
I mean, I surely am not wearing this t-shirt right now, but I mean, if Andrew Wiggins picks, it's going to be a battle of the role players. I honestly feel it's going to be a battle of role players. If Austin Reeves is giving you 27, I think the Lakers win. If Andrew Wiggins is giving you like 23, 8, and 6, I mean, there's no stopping that guy too, right? And if Klay Thompson is shooting you out of the game, then
I think
fair play. Go ahead.
I think I'd be more scared of the Austin Reeves matchup since he's able to draw those fouls. And I think with the Warriors having a lot of issues with guarding players like that who draw fouls and they tend to get in foul trouble and then put the other team on the line. It has been a problem all season long. I think that might be a difficult matchup for the Warriors. But we'll have to see what kind of Austin Reeves we get. But he's been balling out like the past couple of months at least.
For sure. And I mean, except for
All right.
Kevon Looney, I mean, they do not have anyone who can really get a lot of rebounds too. So if you have Kevon Looney in a lot of foul trouble, it will be, I mean, I would say at certain points of time within this Kings series, Kevon Looney was more important to them than Draymond Green. But if Kevon Looney is in a lot of foul trouble, I think the Warriors are really scared. And I mean, you have LeBron James who can really get to the paint, get foul calls. I mean, AD can get a lot of foul calls. Austin Reeves. So I mean, it's a matchup. It's going to be a battle for sure. And Sridhan, I see you have something really interesting to discuss with us.
I mean, definitely it will be a paint versus three battle, but let's move on to the predictions. Let's see what is going to happen. Let's change the predictions format a little bit. Let's talk about the best player of the series. Let's talk about the best past of the series. Let's talk about the player who can surprise us in this particular series, and then in the last, let's go towards game predictions. Rudraj, who do you think is winning?
Oh, it's so hard to make prediction in terms of like Warriors matchups because it's hard to be objective. Um, there's that like whatever you call it, the analyst persona in me that wants to do everything objectively and look at things factually and then there's that fan in me that wants to believe that the Warriors will always win. But as for the best player of the series, I feel like it'll be Steph, regardless, because I don't think LeBron is gonna go trying to be the best player of the series, at least in terms of stats. But uh, biggest bust of the series would probably have to be, yeah, Jordan Poole. I don't know. I mean, I'll know better like once I see at least one game. I'll see how the matchups are working, and that's how I get my rhythm usually. Player who can surprise. I mean, I don't have a conventional answer, but I feel like one player that has not been in the rotation recently has been Jermichael Green and like probably Jonathan Kuminga. So either of those guys can get minutes in this series, considering that they are very athletic and they can defend and attack the rim on the other end. So they might get minutes in this series. Especially Jermichael, I think he might be able to give us some minutes as the small ball five, and he can stretch the floor, which might give Lakers some problems.
And
Angad,
game
what do you think about
predictions?
the
Uh,
matchup? Oh, sorry,
Oh,
my bad.
game predictions. Uh, I think Lakers in 7.
Oh,
Lakers
yeah,
in
one,
7, I
right?
guess. I don't know.
My
I
God.
mean,
So we've
I mean,
converted you. So
I'm not a fan. I told you, like, from with my heart, all my heart is with Golden State. But I'm probably thinking, just because traditionally I feel like Warriors have had problems against this Lakers size. Even in that playing game, as good as we played, I think we kind of threw it away. I feel like objectively thinking, the Lakers might have a little bit of edge. Also considering the fact that the Lakers themselves have been playing extremely well. They've had good chemistry, although role players know their roles and are playing their roles really well. Whereas Golden State has seemed kind of off, and not everybody is contributing to their wins. It's basically one or two guys showing up. So I'm in that sense, I'm sort of favoring the Lakers.
I mean, you put that out really perfectly, right? There's particularly that one player who is probably on his best day, the second best player in that team, and on his worst day, probably the fourth best player. But he always chucks up shots like he's the best player. I'm not going to name anyone, but I mean, sure. The best player of this series, I mean, I think his box score wise is definitely going to be Steph. I think Steph is going to average probably close to 30 points, 5 and 5. I think that's Steph, and he's really going to do that. But I think the Lakers' philosophy is going to be Steph is going to get 30, but we're not going to let anyone else get that, right? And that was pretty much what we saw from them by, giving Ja Morant sometimes just the open role, or even Desmond Bain a lot of open middies, especially in game 5 and game 6. Granted, we did go 1-1 against that matchup, but at the same point in time, I think it's all going to be that Steph alone cannot defeat us, and that's going to be probably the biggest thing. But I think if the Lakers are winning, it's definitely not going to be Anthony Davis. It's going to be LeBron James. We talked about this a lot. Anthony Davis could have the box score, but LeBron's 18, 5 and 7 is often what pulls the Lakers away from that game. I think the biggest bust of the series, guys, you can count it right now. I'm predicting this. Draymond Green is the biggest bust of the series. Next season,
Hey.
the Lakers have a $38 million luxury cap space. He declines his player option. Clutch Sports already has him here, and he's coming to the Lakers. I mean, I damn sure.
But Angad, why would you want the biggest bust of the series on your Lakers squad?
Hey, I
Like,
don't want him,
does
but
LeBron need bums on his team?
I'm not sure of I'm not sure if I want Draymond on my team, because I'm someone who has been a consistent Draymond Green hater for many years. But I think LeBron wants who he wants, right? If you can get Russell Westbrook, and if you can convince Rob Pelinka to get Russell Westbrook, you can convince him to get anyone, right? But I still think that Draymond, even after all the connections, I think Draymond is not going to have the best series. I mean, he was vital in a lot of games against that inexperienced Kings team. But I think him against LeBron and him against AD, I think they're going to outlast him. I think that's going to be my prediction. I think one player who did not get a lot of, uh, how do I put it? He didn't get a lot of praise, especially for the Warriors, and a player who can definitely surprise me is Dante DiVincenzo. I mean, that guy could go 5 for 7 from the field and 3 for 4 from three. And I mean, Rudraj is really nodding with me, but really
The
nodding
reason
against me. Go
the
ahead, go
reason
ahead.
why he didn't get that praise is because he was dog shit in this series. We had high expectations from him because all year long he was probably one of the better pickups for us. Like
For
like
sure.
Jermichael didn't play that well for us. He had that foot injury and then infection or something like that. And he was out for most of the season. Dante was the one hope that we had, and he was not hitting it from outside the arc, not from the inside. He was in lower 30s from even inside the arc, so I think he deserved his share of what do
I
you
mean,
call
sure,
that?
he deserved it, but at the same point in time, I mean, I've seen him win a title with the Bucks, and as much as he did not do a great job in that playoff season too, I mean, that is someone who you can definitely play a three-guard lineup with. I would love to see probably a power forward Wiggins and a small forward Dante DiVincenzo, especially against someone like Austin Reeves, because
Oh,
Dante DiVincenzo is gonna do gonna do the dirty work. He's gonna go for those balls. He's probably, he's someone that you can afford to
I'll
have
give you
six
that. Like
fouls.
he's good on rebounding.
Yeah, he's
I'll give
definitely
you that.
great on
He's a good
rebounding.
rebounder.
But at the same point in time, I mean, he's someone, in 28 minutes, he couldn't get six fouls, and it's not that, oh my God, we're losing DiVincenzo in the last 6 minutes. I mean, he's definitely a player,
This Effie.
you want after, with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter, you want him when your team is probably down with the energy, and you want someone who can just get some fast break layups. So I think he's definitely one of the players who can surprise any of us. And the other player is going to be Jared Vanderbilt for sure for the Lakers. I mean, this guy in game 5 and game 6 had like 2 blocks in the first quarter, had a couple of threes, and the guy, his average probably 18 minutes, but if he's doing a good job in that 18 minutes, I'm damn sure that he's probably going to get a lot more minutes. I mean, he's not that vital in the closing lineup, definitely because he's not an offensive threat, and Lakers, whenever they needed an offensive threat, they go to Rui Hachimura, especially because he can knock down those open shots more consistently. But I think Jared Vanderbilt has the definite potential to be the surprise player for the Lakers. And finally, game predictions. I mean, I've always said Lakers in 5, but this Warriors team is no slouch. I have to go with my prediction being Lakers in 6. I think. I mean, another game where you do not have home court, obviously, but it's not as bad as Memphis, where you're probably traveling 4 hours, then 2 hours you lose 2 hours in that non latitude lineup, right? So Lakers in 6. I think Anthony Davis had a beautiful series. I think LeBron James averages probably 13 rebounds and 13 assists, a triple double throughout. And
Oof.
Jared Vanderbilt is the player that surprises us all. And Lakers in 6.
Okay.
All right. I mean, Angad, you took some things what I wanted to say from my mouth. I mean, I completely agree with you. But for me, the best player of the series would be LeBron James. It will not be Steph Curry for me because he's going on a shooting spree. I agree to that. But LeBron, seeing that Curry is going on a shooting spree, will come back probably for a couple of 40-point games in the season. And especially if he
Oh,
goes down 2 or goes down 1, he'll probably come back stronger. And you've seen how LeBron has performed
I think
in
Father Time has something
some.
to say about that.
I understand that he's getting old. I understand that he does not have the same stamina that he used to. But then LeBron is dominant, and LeBron is who he is, right? We also need to keep in mind the kind of longevity he has shown that has never been seen before. He's old, but he's not that old that he could not. He's not in his last season. He'll probably take a couple of seasons or 3 seasons more. I mean, that is controversial, but it is not his last season, right? So that's why I'm expecting a lot
Yeah,
more
for sure. But
from LeBron James.
even if I was the die-hard LeBron fan, I wouldn't expect or want him to go for 40 because he himself said like he was feeling it. Even Darvin Ham said it. Even after that OT game where he didn't have like 40, he had what 22 and 20. Uh, but he expended a lot of energy to get that win, and you saw how the Lakers came out the next game. It was because the Lakers follow LeBron's energy. I feel like he needs to conserve his energy a lot. And I think he doesn't need to go for that 40 in order for the Lakers to win. And I don't think he will get caught up in all of that and trying to be that 40-point game guy. I think he's smarter than that. He has better IQ, and I think he'll lead them in different ways and get them over the line. I don't think, frankly, at this point, he's capable of multiple 40 games in a series.
I agree to some of that, but I think so. LeBron being who he is, and if Lakers are down, that is what I'm trying to say. That if Lakers are down, I mean, I'm sure that LeBron will carry them on the back, and probably if he has to get those 40 points game, he will. That is what my point is. I'm sure that he'll not get 40-point games if it's a smooth sailing for Lakers. He'll always put his team first. He'll always try to get the young players like Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura to perform. If they do not, then a 40-point bomb might come in the series. And if it need be, if they're two down
Oof.
or three down, who knows? Might be a couple of 40-point games, especially against Curry. I mean, there has been a tussle between, and we've discussed this tussle a lot. I mean, that is the real beef. I mean, he had a beef with Dylan Brooks, which was not a real beef, but Steph Curry. I mean, he'll be
Don't say
fighting.
those two names in the same breath, my man. Don't
I mean, he'll be
embarrass
coming
yourself.
out strong. All right, talking about the biggest bust of the series, I am still predicting Klay Thompson to not show up. Right, I think so. He
Oof.
might be the biggest bust
Sounding
of the.
like
I
a
mean,
real hater at this point,
I
but
don't
okay.
hate Klay Thompson, all right. I don't hate Klay Thompson at all. But then he's. I don't think so. He performs one game, the Warriors fan, just become happy, and then for next 4 games he does not perform. He's just like KL Rahul of the Indian team, right? One game he performs, everyone is like, oh my god, he's the best player, and then he does not perform for 10 games straight. And I think so that is something that would happen,
No
right?
idea what he just
Talking
said.
about the biggest player who can surprise. Talking about player who can surprise, I think so. The player who can surprise is Steven Genzo. Just like Angad said, I think so. He has been trying to get that, the points, trying to get those rebounds. He's been looking gritty, although he did not contribute on the stat line. But if you would have watched the match, he looked gritty coming off the bench. He was trying to get all those rebounds, trying to get all those steals. So I think so. He will be one of the people who will be a big surprise in this matchup. And obviously, Rui Hachimura. I mean, we are expecting him to go off in the first game. In the first game that
Srijan's goat, Rui
Lakers won.
Hachimura.
I mean, the first game that Lakers won in the previous series, Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves contributed to 54 points. I think so. That is something that we are looking more of. I think so. The focus would be on the three people. I think so. When LeBron, AD are on the field, the focus would be on them. When they're off the field, the focus would be on Schroeder, who will be the focus on Austin Reeves. And I think so. Rui Hachimura would be the person who could surprise us in the end. And I'm predicting this to not go in Game 7, because if it goes to Game 7, I think so. Like the Warriors have an upper hand because they just won Game 7. We saw how dominant Curry was, so they might have an upper hand in Game 7. But I'm predicting Lakers in 6.
50.
A 50-point bomb.
I think I agree to a lot of what you guys said. I feel like Austin Reeves will be a key player for the Lakers. I think that'll be a key player to watch. Anthony Davis will be another. I think he's a good barometer for the Lakers. When he plays good, he has energy on both ends. The Lakers tend to have a good game. Obviously, LeBron is the leader, and that's the ultimate thing for me as well. That if LeBron plays well, I think that's when the Lakers tend to win. But other than that, Dennis Schroeder will also be a key player to watch. I feel like those are the 4 players I feel like that will have the highest impact on the series, and I feel like Dennis Schroeder or Austin Reeves might turn out to be the X factors for the Lakers.
All
Damn.
right, guys. Thank you so much for having the conversation. I mean, it was pretty fun having a conversation with these two again. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Till then, bye bye. Peace.
Peace.
Ciao.